on your feet and give honor to this guy, Coach Joe Kennedy, as he comes to speak today.
All right. So, yeah, talk about a fluke of being here. Under the worst circumstances you can imagine, somebody losing somebody, and then, calling an audible, that's a great, way to say it. But the reason why I am here, and I just realized that while we were doing that worship thing, there's something about music and worshiping that really speaks to my heart. And I just was reading this, the lead follower, get out of the way, and I realized why I am here today. I'm sorry, it's not for any of you, not a single one of you. It's for me. Honest to God, I was sitting here, and I started getting emotional while they were doing the song, and I'm sitting there going, this is why I'm here. All God works things out so you can't even process how he works things out. I mean, somebody literally had to die. I was up in Washington, supposed to be coaching. I was supposed to fly home today. I was supposed to be up there. Things didn't work out. It was just a complete mess up in Washington. I was so stressed out. I made myself sick. Anybody ever hear the words, that you worry yourself to death and you make yourself sick of worrying? Well, this is what I was doing. I made myself sick. This is the first time I came home early from my trip in Washington, gave up the last week of coaching spring ball because I was sick, and I realized that I needed to be right here, right now, for me to God fill me up. Because I didn't know where I fit in this whole lead, follow, and get out of the way thing. So God worked it out absolutely beautifully. I mean, a friend of a friend happens to know a guy, and here I am standing before you today, just some high school football coach. So I don't know what you've heard about me. Some of the guys have heard my story, and if you've heard my story, too bad you're going to have to hear it again. Suck it up, Buttercup. It's just the way it is. So I'm not a huggy, squeezy, emotional kind of guy, but I'm going to, telling myself a bunch while I'm up here talking, is that when I was conceived, my parents weren't married, single families. You hear about this a lot. I was a unwanted birth or unplanned pregnancy. My mom, she didn't want to have me. The guy she was engaged to, she cheated on him, and he came home from Vietnam, and his fiancée is knocked up with somebody else's kid. What do you do for that? Man, I couldn't go through that. If my girl cheated on me, I'd be, out the door. But her father sat him down when he got back from Vietnam to this pregnant lady, or his girlfriend, and sat him down and said, you have two choices. You can either, one, you could love her forever and forget all this has ever happened and forgive her 100%, or you get the hell out and you never show your face here again. Those are the only two options. Now, they talked about abortion. They talked about all those things of what do you do. But their family was a good God-fearing family, and they wanted, that, hey, abortion's not even on the table. But for my dad and my mom, yeah, definitely. Unwanted pregnancy, unfaithfulness. Here's the proof of that. That's hard way to probably come into the world. And it's interesting that they had this family that was a Catholic family. They couldn't have kids. And just like with all Catholic families, anybody Catholic? No one? Oh, man. One. Yes. All right, we got a couple. So they're kind of like Mormons. They're supposed to breed a lot and have lots of kids and stuff, okay? You can't even make this stuff up. You look at any Catholic, it's Mormons first and it's Catholics, and then I don't know whatever else is out there. I don't know all the religions and stuff. So they couldn't have kids, so they adopted a girl, and then they adopted me about a year later. And then through science and the grace of God, they started having kids. So here's this woman that couldn't have kids, so they buy a couple from eBay that was for sale. And they didn't know what they're getting. You never know what you're going to get. And then they started spitting out kids, and it was like one litter after another. And they had, I think 5 or 6 kids after they adopted us. So they didn't really need us. And when, bought on site without, really checking under the hood and everything, I was a defective product. I was an angry little kid. I was that kid, probably just like every one guy here one time in your life, where you're just mad. You don't know what you're mad about. You're mad at God, you're mad at your parents, you're mad at this, you're just an angry kid. Well, I never got over that. And when my parents said they didn't need me anymore, it kind of set off a trigger and sent me on a dark path. And when I was taking a look at this and it says lead, that's where I started to lead. And that's a terrible place to actually start leading, is right when you're a little kid. So here I am, angry little kid, fighting, always in trouble, getting kicked out of the house, run away, doing drugs, beating up people, stealing, everything you could possibly imagine. I know some people here got a story just like that, so you can relate to, what a little turd I was at that age. So here's this angry little kid, and I was so bad, I was telling these guys that, hopefully I have somebody else here that could relate to this. So when I was in third grade, I was expelled. So what are you, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there? Anybody else get kicked out in third grade? Come on, man. I'm all on my own here. Okay, so here I am. I get expelled in third grade. This is how bad I am. They send me to a Catholic school, and they think they're going to turn me around. And those nuns, they sit there, and when you're in trouble, they smack you on the hand with a ruler, and I'm laughing at them. And nothing got through to me until one of the sisters, as she was whacking my hand, and I'm just laughing at her, and she says, "You know what? You are nothing but pain." And I was like, well, what I wanted to say to her was something else. But she says, "You bring nothing but pain. You give nothing to anybody. You don't have anything to contribute. There is nothing you bring except pain and suffering to everywhere you go." Now, this is a third grade, fourth grade kid. That's a bad place to be. I look at these little guys. How old are you guys? He's 12, man. I was out on the streets when I was that age. I was that kid that you didn't want your kids anywhere near. You definitely didn't. If anybody's got any daughters, you didn't want somebody like me around their daughters. That's for darn sure. So here's this bad kid, grow up on the streets. I was in and out of group homes, foster homes, boys' homes. Kind of did that whole entire circuit of trying to figure out my life. And what I was doing was try to lead myself. And it really wasn't working. It wasn't until I was halfway through high school and I needed to do something. And that lady, that nun, always stuck with me and, bringing pain and suffering. I bring nothing but that. I wanted to know if I could do something beyond that. And so, being a tough kid that I was, and I was go prove her wrong. She's not the boss of me. She can't tell me what to do. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make something of myself, and I joined the Marine Corps. Well, actually, I joined the Army, but I grew up and became a Marine, is what I tell everybody. So hopefully they hit a couple of you guys. Yeah. Wah. All right. So I go into the service, and I thought, this is the perfect place. I could go, and I could go hurt people. I could go kill people. This is my perfect life to be a fighter. I did wrestling. I did martial arts. I did boxing. You look at this face, and you can see that it's been beat up a couple times. So I could say I'm tough, but I'm not the baddest dude around, obviously. There's always somebody better, and I got my butt whooped many, many times, but I always got up and kept fighting. Always. I was always a fighter. So here I am in the Marines, and I was living for the world. It just made perfect sense. I went overseas. I wanted to experience everything the world had to offer, everything. And if anybody was in the service or you watch these movies and you see these guys that are doing all this stuff, what happens overseas and, with, they got the hookers, they got the beer, they got the clubs, they got every crazy thing you could possibly imagine to a 17-year-old kid. That was heaven for me. And I lived in that world so much the whole entire time, and I loved it. I found something that I felt like I was part of. And I thought I was a leader. I thought I was a leader of men, and I thought my life is going to turn around, and I'm really making something of myself. Little did I know that I'm an idiot, and I had no idea what I was talking about. And right when I was about to retire, I met up with my childhood sweetheart. Now, this childhood sweetheart, I'm talking when I was 9 years old, I was introduced to her, walked up to her, and the first time I saw her, I looked at her and I'm staring at her, and she looks at me. You know, you make that eye contact. It's a whole movie thing, you know, you see on Hollywood. Slow motion, wind blowing, bangs out of her, you know, eyes and stuff. And she's listening to me right now. We are tapped, huh? We are tapped. So, wait, I forget where I am. So I'm sitting there, and I walk up to her, and I'm looking at her, and I'm just looking at these big brown eyes, and I'm just in love. I mean, love at first sight. You always hear about that, love at first sight. And it was, and I'm standing there, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to marry you." Keep in mind, we're both 9 years old. And I say, "I want to marry you." So her response was, "You're creepy," and went into the house to get her mom. And I took off running. So me and my brother, we got in a fight over who was going to marry Denise. And, you know, she's still with me today. So, you know, kind of ruined the story right there. But so I've been in love with this girl my whole entire life. Me and my brother, that was the first time we ever got in a fist fight over who was going to marry her. Mom was out there spraying us with a hose because we're fighting. It was the first time I ever punched him in the face was because of who was going to marry her. So this has been an ongoing thing for years and years and years. So then I go fast forward. We've always been in contact and in and out of each other's lives, but never where we were together. And timing was just never on our side. She went through a lot of abuse. She went through a lot of stuff when she was a kid, you know, the broken families and, you know, evil stepdads and the things that people do and the things that I saw in the boys' homes and in those group homes. You know, no kids should ever have to go through that. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out, you know, my life, and I'm sitting there looking at hers, and I'm looking at all these other people that are so broken and so hurt and so destroyed, and I think my life's pretty good. I think I'm doing just fine because I'm not them. So I'm getting ready to retire from the Marine Corps, and I meet up with her, and the first time I meet up with her, I look into her eyes, and it was just boom. It was that love all over again. I mean, the second I saw her. And, you know, it's a long story to, like everything else, how to get to there. So we get connected, and it was, I just want to marry this girl. So this is 30 years later, we reconnect. And we fall madly in love. Now I'm actually worth going out with, which is weird. Here she is, a middle-aged woman, overweight, 3 kids, mountain of debt, works full-time, has nothing to offer anybody. So I seem pretty appealing to her. So, I mean, I got to give her that. That's pretty cool for me that I kind of swooped right in there at that perfect timing. So she marries me, and I think my world is perfect. I think, man, this is what it's about. This is what I've always planned it to be. Well, she was a good church girl. That's the only thing she ever attached herself to. All the abuse that she went through her marriage with an abusive husband, everything was anchored because she had God in her corner the whole entire time. Now, here I come on the scene, and I, you know, kick in the door being the Marine, and she's got 3 kids, and I don't know how to raise kids. And I definitely don't know how to be a dad and a good husband. I've already been married twice. I already had a kid, and I wasn't part of his life because I was married to the Marine Corps. So there was no way that I knew what I was doing. So I'm winging it just like everybody else does. It's just trying the best that they can. It doesn't come with a, you know, operating manual. I don't know if anybody else has the perfect marriage. If you do, get with me afterwards and tell me how to do it because I suck at it most of the time. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out how in the heck I make my life work with her. We pushed against each other so much, and we just butted heads. And the closer I tried to get to her, the farther she pushed and the harder she pushed and the more bricks that she actually put up. And I was lost. I had no idea what I was going to do. How am I going to be with a woman that I've been in love with my whole entire life? So I reluctantly been going to church with her, and I'm sitting in church one day, and like I said, the music was playing one time, and we just got in this big fight on the way to church. I don't know if anybody's ever been in a fight on the way to church. It seems like, that's like the thing to do, I guess, on Sunday mornings is to get in a fight with your wife. So we're sitting there, and we're sitting in church, and she's kind of got that half edge away from me, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know what am I doing wrong? What do I got to do? The preacher's up there talking about money and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then they start playing the music at the end, and it was, there's no words to describe what it was. But it was like God lifted me up off of my butt and kind of ushered me up to the altar stage or whatever it's called. See, I'm not a great church guy, so forgive me on that one. So I go up there, and I just fall onto my knees. Now, I told you I'm not a huggy-feely kind of cryy guy. I fell out, man. I fell out, and I just lost it. I unburdened everything. And I was sitting there, and I'm a wheeler and dealer. I always wanted to make a deal with somebody, always trying to find that quick way to get things done. I'm sitting up there bawling my eyes out, and I said, God, if you give me my wife, I will give you my life. That was my deal to him. There was no lower place that I could foresee. I was in dumpsters, when I was a kid, living, eating out of the, Burger Shack, garbage and stuff. The stupid things that you do as a kid. But this was the lowest I've ever been, was when I was broken and sitting there pleading for God to help me with my marriage because I couldn't do it. And from that moment on, it was that music that was playing in the background that you guys, hear. The power of that is just so incredible to me. There's only certain things that really hit me hard, and music and entertainment is absolutely one of the things that does that. So I become this Christian, and my wife sees me up there, bawling my eyes out, and she comes running up there, and we cried together, and all the barriers came down, and everything was great, and life was wonderful for us. And we think we're having the perfect life. She finally saw that, hey, this guy doesn't want anything but to love me. Nothing at all. He will give his life for me. He's given his life right now for me, giving it to God for me. She realized that. And that's what saved our marriage. And to tell you, I think we had a great marriage. I think everything was really good. I mean, we had, of course, little spats here and there. You can't raise other people's kids sometimes. It's kind of hard. Fighting with Mama Bear. And yeah, those kids, you flick them once and, she comes out and she's just... Hopefully she's not watching this to see how many times I flick those kids. So, I'm thinking that my life is good. Life is really good. I'm married to the girl I want. I just retired from the military. I just started a new job at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard, working for the government, big slush fund, never-ending, money pit. And I'm thinking, man, I'm just making all kinds of money. I'm successful. My life is going perfect, and it's all because of God. And I'm giving him the credit. I really did. I believed in. I tried the tithing thing, I hated that when the pastor would always, I was telling Gary that I don't know if I could take an offering because that stresses me out, man. Something about that money is connected to my hip. That's why it's in our hip pocket, right? We don't like to let go of that. I can't make it on 100% of my funds. Now God's wanting me to do it off of 90% of my funds. This is not making sense to me. But in the Bible, I guess, and somebody could tell me where it's at, it's probably in 1 Thessalonians or something. Or in Book of Brian, I think it is, right? That says, you can, test me in this about giving. I don't know the specifics of it, but there was something on that. And I took him up on that. I mean, this is the relationship I have with God. You know, I make a deal with him right there and say, you know, hey, you give me my wife, I give you my life. Good deal right there. I do the tithing thing. Okay, here's my money, man. Let's see what you could do with it. He worked it out, and I'm like, wow, man, this God is pretty cool. Where's he been my whole life? I mean, I should have started this way, right? I was too busy leading myself and not having any idea. So now all of a sudden, I'm starting to follow. And when I realized that I was a much better follower than I was a leader of my life. I sucked at it. I might have been successful in every way, shape, and form of the world, but man, I sucked at it and I was empty. I was nothing without my wife and my family and my God. And not in that specific order, obviously, because I didn't know what order to put these things in. So, you know, God's the center of our life. Our kids are doing great. We got 4 kids that we're raising. We, you know, have them in high school, and out of the blue, this guy comes up. I'm out on a run one day. I'm out doing my PT, and I'm out on the run, and this guy pulls up in his car, and he goes, hey, excuse me, and I look at him, and I'm like, what's up? You know, I'm sitting there going, who is this guy? You know, I'm reaching, I don't have my gun. I'm running, you know. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go duck or run. I don't know. And he says, hey, I see you got a Bremerton shirt on. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And he says, did you go to Bremerton? And I'm trying to run. And I'm like, yeah, I went to Bremerton. He goes, can I talk to you for a few moments? All right. So I'm thinking this creeper dude, all right. Well, if he wants to get whooped, I mean, we're going to throw down right here. So he pulls up to the gas station. I don't know what to expect. And big smile. We call him Smiling George. And he comes up and he just smiles and grips my hand. He's a politician. He says, I'm the athletic director for Bremerton School District. He was an important guy. He told me so. And so he's shaking my hand, he's smiling, and he goes, what's your background? And I said, well, you know, I just got out of the military. You know, I'm back here in town. I grew up here, graduated from Bremerton. He said, did you play football? I was like, no, I was too little. I was 4'10" till my sophomore year. That's a little dude. I had big attitude. I had little man complex. I would fight. Where's my biggest? I have 2 giant 6'7" guys in here, right? There's 2 of them that it's funny when I sit here with, everybody's pointing at these guys. I feel dwarfed when I'm standing next to them. So I'm this little guy. I can't play football, but I could wrestle, I could fight, I could do these other things. And I was like, I didn't play football. It wasn't in my cards. And he said, we're looking for coaches. Now, this guy doesn't know me from Adam. Happens to be driving down the road, happens to see a Bremerton shirt. I was running in my wrestling shoes, so, you know, naturally that doesn't look right. So he's going to stop. And we started talking, and I'm like, you know, no, have no interest in it. And he says, well, here, take my card. And I'm like, where am I going to put this thing, you know? So I'm like, all right, good talking to you, George, Smiling George, all right, buddy. And I take off running, and I throw it away. It seemed like every week when I was on my run, this guy would come by, honk his horn, stop. Hey, you want to be a coach? This went on for almost 2 years. Now, my wife just started working for the school district. She was the secretary, worked in the front office. So first thing in the morning, Smiling George would come right up to her desk and say, is your husband ready to start coaching? So I was getting this from both sides. You know, my wife's like, hey, you know, George is asking about you. Maybe you should think about this coaching thing. I'm like, you know, one, I don't know anything about football, nothing. You know, I know you go and just try to knock the crap out of people, but that's about it. If you've got the ball, you hit them hard. That's it. Pretty simple design. But I don't know any of this stuff. And I just spent, 20 years in the military giving my life to the military, not just serving the country and the Constitution and all those things that are great, but I was married to the Marine Corps. I gave up my family. I gave up 2 marriages. I failed it in every way, shape, and form for the Marine Corps. So I knew I didn't want to jump back into something that was going to be so, time committed. You talk about you give up your time. Man, I would give you my money. I would give you my everything else, but I don't have time to give you. And that's what they wanted. I'm trying to live this perfect life over here. Leave me alone. Me and my wife, my kids, we're all-American family now. Finally got my house put together, and I'm going to be the man, and I'm just going to live here forever. This is the way I want to be. God kind of, he doesn't like that. His sense of humor is so weird and so bizarre, and he just thought, no, let's mess with Kennedy Day, and let's have him coach football. So I said, well, it's not going to work out. I just started a new job. There's no way I could possibly, to coach and give full time. I'm married. I got a family I'm raising. I just started this new job. I can't ask for, be off at work every day by 3 for practice. I can't take Fridays off for Friday night games. Can't tell them, weekends I need to put together film and stuff and break down with the team. And also I need Mondays off because I'm going to be the coach of JV too. So I'm trying to balance all this stuff, and I'm like, there's just no way that this could possibly work. Well, God just made it all work. He promoted me from nothing to something, gave me my free schedule, and just opened the doors up. And I'm like, I'm running out of excuses here. So, I'm starting to, I'm trying to follow, and I'm obviously not doing a good job on that, and I'm not getting those clues that he's, stabbing me in the face with. So I said, fine, I'm going to go, and I'll apply. So I applied. I went to the job interview, and they're sitting there, and you got like 2 coaches and the athletic director and the principal and somebody else, and they're grilling in, and head football coach says, so why are we hiring you? And I was like, I have no idea. I got nothing, man. And he's looking at me like, is this a joke? He's looking around the room, and I said, I got nothing. This guy wants me to apply, this athletic director. And so they were like, well, you got to give us something. And I said, only thing I could bring to your program is, okay, I know about leadership. I know about team building. I know about young men. I know about developing men and getting the most out of my men. I know how to do all that. I can make you a great team with all the intangible stuff, but I couldn't give you 1 X or 1 O. And that's what the program was missing at the time. Interesting how that worked, that was the missing piece at our football program. So I said, well, give me the week. They offered me a job right there on the spot after I said that. And I said, well, give me the weekend to think about it, and like every good Christian does, let me pray about it with my family. So I go home, and I really did pray with my family on this because my wife worked for the school district. I just got out of the military, so she knows that, I'm a little OCD, and when I go in, I go all in, obviously, because I've been chasing her my whole entire life. So I'm trying to work things out with her. And then my kids, I had 2 kids at the high school and 1 at the middle school. Now, I'm not that great parent where, I'm not really great with kids, and, those kind of things, don't go over well. And so I think my kids wanted to go to school just so they could get away from me and have a break from me. So this is something that's big that I'm going to be not just here at the house, I'm going to be invading where you're going to school. Now, that's only your safe haven, and here I'm going to be. So I'm sitting there thinking, God, you really put me in a pickle here. You got to give me something, man. You really do. You got to give me something. And so my wife, in her great wisdom, says, God will figure it out. God will tell you what's up. I was sitting there in the middle of the night on Saturday or Sunday night that weekend, and I'm flipping through the channels. And about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, there's nothing on. I mean, you got 1,000 channels of nothing. And if anything is on, it's probably not worth watching and shouldn't be watching, right? So I'm going through the channels, and all of a sudden, I stop at this football movie, Facing the Giants. Stop me in my tracks. And I don't know if everybody's seen the movie, and I don't want to spoil it, but there was a coach that was having a hard time. He was trying to do things on his own, and he wasn't following. He was trying to lead on his own, and related very much to me. And he said, God, I'm all in. I will give you the glory after every game. Now, I'm a spoiler. That's what he said in the movie. So nothing I do is original. Everything, I steal everything. I have no original ideas. And so I fall on my knees. I'm bawling my eyes out again for a second time in my life. I'm bawling my eyes out, sobbing on my living room, floor. And I'm just crying to God. I'm like, I'm in. I hear you. It was the first time in my entire life ever I heard what my calling was. Now, I always heard about calling was sitting in church and what's your calling, what's your calling, what's your calling? I didn't know what a calling was. I had no idea. Well, this is what it was. God was calling me to be a coach. And man, I was all in. I said, God, I'm going to give you the glory after every game, win or lose, right there on the battlefield. I'm all in, and I'm a big sobbing story of it. And that was my commitment to God. Simple. You can't get more simple than that. So here I do. I start coaching. Things are going good. We have great seasons of sucking. And we have one championship, but I never looked at my win and loss. I was a head coach for JV. I know we won more games than we lost, which was good, but I never paid attention to what our record was. I got to focus 100% of my time on the young men that were actually doing the X's and O's. It freed up all the coaches to focus on those things, and I could take care of the rest of it. So it was a perfect combination, and things are going so great. And after every game, I would go over there at the 50-yard line after the game. You shake hands with the opposing team and say a couple passing words to the opposite team. And, because I was a head coach of the JV, I would be playing that team again on Monday. So Friday nights, we would play the varsity. Our JV would play on Mondays. So I would always, after the game, after I shake hands with the team, I'd get with the coach and we'd work out logistics. We'd talk about our special needs kids, those kind of things of, because everybody plays on JV. We've got to get reps. Everybody's going to play, and it's going to be just a good time. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard work. And that's just what my life was. And I would just take a knee. It was no big deal. A couple months into me coaching, I don't know, maybe 6 months into it, I had a couple of my guys on my team come up and say, Coach, what are you doing out there after the game? And I said, I was just thanking God for what you guys did. And they were like, well, that's pretty cool. Can we join you? And I'm like, hey, man, this is America. You could do whatever you want. Freedom is something that means a lot to me. So, of course you could come out there. The school only has one rule when it comes to prayer and religion in the schools, which I just found out through this, that you cannot encourage nor discourage kids in prayer. It made absolutely perfect sense. So if I tell a kid he has to come out and pray, that's wrong. I know that's wrong. I should be fired. I should be kicked off the team. Anybody who pushes their religion on somebody should be punched in the face. But on the opposite side of that is I'm not going to tell, no, you can't come out. So I walked that line perfectly. I didn't care if people showed up or not. It made no difference. If we would lose by 60 points, let me tell you, kids don't want to come out and be thankful. They don't want to pray with the other team, let me tell you. But the same thing goes if you win by 60 points, they lose their mind and they just want to go hug their girlfriends and, pose in front of the, for pictures and all that kind of stuff and forget it all about God. But I always did my thing. So they started, now the community is not very big, about 20, 30,000 people, give or take, depending on what ship is in, up in, the military. 10,000 people will come in a carrier. Squids, where's my other Navy guy? I got a couple of those guys. So, don't get me started on those guys. I'll get sidetracked. Rabbit holes all day long. Where was I? Oh, praying on the field. Yeah, that's what it was. Praying on the field. So the team, it was a small community. A lot of kids will, military families. So single parents, they break up. They move from one side of town to another. They might go to another school. So these kids play peewees. They grew up together, and they're still friends. They're rivals, but they're still friends. And so my team captains came up and said, "Hey, Coach, would it be all right if we invited the other team to pray with us?" I was like, "Man, this is your team. This is America. You can do whatever you want to do. You guys make your own decisions on this." So they started inviting the other team. And it became just a normal thing. On Friday nights and Mondays, we would, after the game, 2 teams would come together. They would hand me the helmets. I would lift both helmets, and I would say, my fancy words of prayer of, God, I'm glad that nobody got killed. Feel bad for Johnny who broke his spleen. That was bad. Hopefully he'll be better. I'm not a great prayer kind of guy. But, I was really thankful for what the kids did. And the only thing they heard is how grateful I was for what they did. I was like giving the glory to God and those young men that were on the field. And I got to be part of it. So it was something that was cool. Went on for 8 years. Not a problem. Not a single hiccup with prayers. We always had josh each other and stuff saying, someday somebody's going to say something to you. I was like, this is America, man. Go ahead. I said, I was a Marine, man. I know what the Constitution said. I know the Bill of Rights. The first one says, the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion. I knew what that meant. That meant something to me. So nobody was going to tell me what I could do. I'm still that defiant little kid, obviously. Now, this is a part where I didn't know if I was leading or if I was following. I don't know where I was at this point in my life, but I'm somewhere in the middle of all of this going on, and somebody has a problem with it. They get a phone call and said, hey, I just want to tell you, I went to a football game on Friday night. It's principal, one administrator's calling the principal of our high school. I was at a football game, and I want to tell you, Mr. Principal Guy, that what your football program is doing is really awesome. Compliment, right? That sounds good. This is what the guy says. So what did they do? They start an investigation. How do you figure that one? Why would you investigate that? Because something good is happening? This isn't because somebody was complaining about something. This came from a compliment. Their lawyers got involved and wanted to figure out, are we following this line? Following the school directives, this or that, cannot encourage nor discourage. So we were going round and round. We've been friends. We coached together and lived together and grew up together, and our kids grew up together for, like a decade now. I've been coaching with these guys. And all of a sudden, here it is where it becomes this big, ugly mess over something so simple as a guy taking a knee and being thankful. So they said, you could pray even when you're on duty, just don't let it interfere with your coaching duties. No sweat, no problem. Doesn't have any problem with that. That's when somebody started having a problem with it, when it became not a problem. Then people were starting to notice, well, that guy's still praying, and the team's still out there. So they said, Coach, gave me another letter, and they said, you could pray, just don't pray with your team. Now, I said, that's unfortunate. It really is. That is an unfortunate thing. And this is how we were talking to each other. I'm like, hey, Aaron, that sucks, man. This is part of our tradition and our history. This is what we do as Bremerton Knights. It's what we, and he says, yeah, but I don't see any way around this. So if we just do that, we'll be okay. And I was like, well, your school, your rules. And only thing I want to do is coach football, man. I don't want to, cause any headaches for anybody. I don't know what praying has to do with anything that is going on with the school district, but all right. So they said, just stop praying with the kids. So that moment, no matter what you read in the news, I never prayed with the team again, ever. Now, the other team came out and joined me, which was really cool. The whole opposing team from across the state didn't even know what was going on in our town. They came out. My team went to go do their fight song, and I told my team, hey, I can't tell you not to come out, but this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do it, and this is the way it's going to have to be, guys. I hope you respect me in this. And my team was cool. We're all cool with each other. And they respected me that I was going to pray by myself. Well, the other team comes out there and joins me. So if you take a look, you could Google this at any time. Look at, if you pull up Coach Kennedy, Bremerton, or Coach Kennedy football, or whatever you want to pull up, you'll see a picture of me praying with this team. This famous picture went all the way to the Supreme Court with me twice and actually stood as being evidence that I was praying with my football team. There wasn't a single one of my football players on the football field. It was the entire opposing team, this whole entire time. So I laugh every time I see this as their evidence. I'm like, that's kind of trippy, man, that I'm in trouble for this. So it came down to where they said, you just don't pray at all and we'll alleviate all this. And that was, I couldn't cross that line. There's no way I could pass that. Man, you're not going to tell me that I can't, exercise my constitutional rights. I fought for 20 years. I had my brothers and sisters die. You think about all the people that have served for our country. That meant something to me. I mean, really, really meant something to me. And I said, I'd be damned if I'm not going to do that. I said, and they said, well, somebody could possibly sue us if you keep praying praying on the football field. And I said, Aaron, the superintendent, goes to my church. The superintendent goes to the same church as I do. Talk about awkward. So we're sitting there, and I said, Aaron, I guarantee you, not a possible somebody could sue us. If you interrupt my constitutional rights of freedom of religion, my freedom of speech, I will sue you. We are friends, and we're still friends to this day, but there was a line I was not going to cross. This is where the crossroads of the lead, follow, and get out of the way got really blurred for me because I didn't know who was leading. I didn't know what I was following. I had no idea what was happening. The Nation, it goes overnight. It's on the news. I'm on every channel. I'm a high school football coach, man. I want to be left alone. I just want to coach football and live with my family. I wanted to be this family right here. This is all I wanted right here. But God pushed me out here with the team, with all of you guys, and now he pushes me in front of the entire country over prayer. I was known as a praying coach. That sucks for me. That might be a good title for like a preacher dude or something. I was like, I think about, some of these kids when they would, screw up and I would, choke slam them or corrected their posture or something. And all the things that I did that I should have been fired for, this is the one that they're what is that? I mean, what do you even do with that? And you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is so bizarre. Only God can make up this kind of stuff. I mean, so here I am in the middle of the battle. I take it fast forward because I know I will talk forever and ever, and I'll never shut up. And we go to the courts, and I lose. I lose at the district court. I lose at the Ninth Circuit. I lose at the Supreme Court. And I'm like, man, this sucks. I have a real losing record here. And after it goes to the Supreme Court, do not pass go. There's nothing else. There's no anything else beyond that. So it goes to the Supreme Court, and they said, we're not going to take it. However, ding, ding, we're very concerned with what this implies from the Ninth Circuit, the crazies that run the whole entire left coast of America. Their group of judges were very concerned with what they said. Now, what they said is that, how did they put it? That any public display of religion, you could be terminated for it, easy way to say it. You could be fired for anything. You think about if you're wearing a hat that says Jesus, you got Jesus fish on your bumper of your car. I have a cross and a rifle tattooed on my arm. I know the little lunch ladies that wear crucifixes or, things in their ears, the little crosses. I think about people, of different faiths. I think about people wearing yarmulkes, the little hat thingies they got on their head. You think about Muslims with all their stuff. They get to pray 5 times a day and stuff. I'm thinking about every American. I'm not just thinking about me and my God. I'm thinking about all Americans. So this is where everything got really screwed up for me of where I was going and what I was doing and why I was doing it. I have no idea where God's leading this. But I knew I could not stand there and have them say that anybody could be fired for any religious display. I don't want to be known as that guy that took away, we already took religion out of the schools, right? I don't want to be the one to take it out of the complete public square. This is the way they have ruled so far. That is what I was most terrified about of this whole entire thing. It wasn't about losing my marriage. It wasn't about, losing my job, losing my football team. It wasn't about any of that. It was about losing America's rights. And everybody would look at the Kennedy case and say, that's why we can't pray in public, is because of him. I didn't want that on my conscience. I'm already the praying coach, which sucks. Now I'm going to be the guy that screwed it up for everybody. So it went back to the Supreme Court said we were very concerned about what the Ninth Circuit says. Go back and to the lower courts, and if it doesn't get settled, bring it back to us. Now, I don't know a lot about history, and I don't know a lot about the Supreme Court, but they don't give you a roadmap. They don't tell you how to come to them. 60,000, I think, get submitted every single year to the Supreme Court. They took 63 the year they took mine. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but that's pretty good odds, right? I'm sitting there thinking, man. So it went to the Supreme Court, it kicked it back, so I went back and I think, it'll get settled at a lower court now that the Supreme Court's looked at it. Lower court, they punted, said, I'm not getting involved. Over my pay grade, not my responsibility. Great, you guys suck. I go to the Ninth Circuit, they doubled down. Not only did they say that I was a bad person, and read up the writing in the Supreme Court. I mean, if you're very, very bored, you can read, we won 6-3, but the three that dissented against us and their whole case says that I'm this kind of person that was forcing kids that they'd have to pray to play. They came up with this whole thing. They got the picture of me praying with the team and how defiant I was, and everybody look at me on the 50-yard line and praying, I'm such a holy man. Man, they're so full of crap. I was so pissed. So So the Ninth Circuit, not only did they say I'm a bad person, but the sitting judge, the 3-judge panel, the sitting judge on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the whole entire left coast, Alaska, all the way down, it's the biggest one in the whole United States. And they said, the judge said that not only did I suck, but as he reads the Bible, his Bible tells him to pray this way. And he quoted a verse in the Bible. I don't know what that verse is, because, preacher guys know that. Don't pray in public, don't be like the hypocrites. Go pray in your closet. Now, we could go in a whole debate about that, but this had nothing to do with that. This had to do with my constitutional rights. So I'm fighting, I think, on the, truth, justice, American way, all those kind of things. And this guy, he wrote it in there and said that the way he reads his Bible, it says this, which instantly, the Supreme Court said, we'll take that case because it became personal. The guy wrote something so stupid he wrote a bunch of bad stuff about me, but he was so stupid to write all that bad stuff about me and pull his personal faith into it. It's all right for a sitting judge to tell Americans how to pray, but I don't have the right to do that myself. So, man, so again, am I leading, am I following, or am I getting out of the way? I don't know what I'm doing at this point. Maybe you guys know at that point. I don't know where I'm at in the world. I have no idea. I just know that God gave me this big national stage all of a sudden. So it goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court takes a look at it, easily rules on it, and says that, you could pray. Your faith is protected. It's doubly protected. It's not just a single ruling under free speech or the freedom of religion. It is doubly protected under the Constitution to have your faith. Now, Christianity is not a spectator sport. I don't know if anybody knows that. It is not something you sit by and watch. You have to be active in it. Being an American is not something you sit on your butt and watch happen and be an American. It has to take action. So I realized that when I was sitting there this morning and I'm going, why am I here? What am I going to say? I realized this is my time to get the hell out of the way. Because I have led the charge up to this point. I have opened the doors, not me. This is all God. I'm just some stupid football coach. I can't do any of this crap. But God has opened the door for you guys to march through. Get me the heck out of the way. God said, look, we just blew a hole in the entire justice system. We opened the doors to bringing religion back into our public schools. What are we going to do with that now? Are we going to just sit by and look at it? Yeah, we blew a hole in Satan's butt big time, man. Let's go stomp a mud hole through it now. We need to get off our butts and actually do something. So you men, us men, me men, I feel like I'm still in the fight, but I need to get out of the way so you guys could stand up and you guys could take this fight on. Anytime you see an injustice, anytime you see anything that has to do with the Constitution, anything with our families, anything to do with our church, anything to do with our country, which is kind of wonky right now, but he's not going to do it without us. Who said that? That was the smartest thing in the world. That is absolute truth. God could do whatever he wants. He could take a stupid high school football coach and open the doors wide open for people to walk through. But we have to be the ones to do it. There is no sitting on your butts. This is a time when we have to do something. So when I see men's conferences, this is why I'm here. So I could get out of the way. I've been rejuvenated. I know why I was here, to know that, man, I did my part so far. And I'm with you guys. You guys have stood with me. You've prayed with me. You have been on my side from day one. That's what won this. God won this. And God could do anything. He really can. He could do anything, limitless. But he wouldn't have, I think, won this case for us if it wasn't for the prayers of the people. He listened to the prayers. We were actively praying about this. Remember when that kid died on the football field last year? Kid in his prime, NFL, boom, just falls out, dead on the football field. What did everybody do? Prayed. Came back to life. Now, I'm not the great Bible guy, scholar. I don't want to mess you up, pastors. But there's not too many resurrections that happen. I know there's a Lazarus dude, right? Help me out, guys. It might be somebody else. But this kid is the other one, all because of prayer. Jesus wasn't here on the earth walking with us to raise Lazarus up. This was the power of prayer right here today. We have the power of that. We have the power of God. So why are we not stomping a mud hole in everybody's ass? But, sorry. I'm so sorry about that one. Thank you, guys. I wish I had some great words to inspire you or something. This was all, there's my brother right there. You guys have filled me up. This is unity. Everything's divided right now, everything. I got friends that are the most liberal people that have unfriended me and just cuss me out every day. I don't hold a thing against them. I don't care. I was just up in Seattle. I was at a book reading with this good Christian guy, Kirk Cameron. He goes around, the drag queens, kings, whatever the heck they're called, are reading to kids. So he went on a nationwide tour to read to kids good books. They had all these protesters, and here I am. Well, of course, I'm strapped with my pistol and stuff, but they got all these protesters out front in Seattle. Seattle's so crazy. They're all sitting right there, and I got my daughter with me, and I got one of my wife's friends with me, and I was like, well, let's go in. Big, bunch of people standing there, and what do? Hey, how you guys doing? Well, that's a clever sign, man. That's clever. Cool. Check that out. And I just walk right by these guys, walking to the front doors, and they're like, what the hell just happened here? Who is that guy? And then they were like, oh my gosh, that's the enemy. Oh. So there is no reason to be afraid in America. If you're afraid, stand with a brother. Unite. Stand with a brother. I will stand with each and every one of you guys. You almost caught me on that one. Yeah, I almost said it. I will stand with every one of you. You guys stood with me for the past 8 years to bring our rights back to public schools. So let's exercise that right. And I will stand with each and every one of you. God bless you guys. Thank you for having me. Love you guys.